All right. Mm. Oh, it's about to get lit. I'm really excited for this video. I'm very excited. So this has been something that I've been sort of exploring on my personal channel, on my Facebook page. Oh, God, this week has been a lot of processing, just a lot of processing, a lot of the things. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. Move the mic stand out of the frame like a goddamn professional. I'm curious to see where this one goes because, okay, so what I'm about to say, 100% flies in the face of a lot of OP rhetoric. It flies in the face of a lot of OP rhetoric that I have myself supported. So I just want you to know that I am aware that I am potentially going back on a previously held position. Certainly a lot of the positions that I held in 2018, I've changed. I think the world has changed. The culture has changed. The OP community has changed. The world of personal growth has changed. I think a lot of things are now different enough that we need to, I don't know. I think we need to question a couple of premises. So that's what I want to do in this video. As with all of these videos, especially when we're talking about, this is what I believe. There's an implicit today in all of this. This is what I believe today. This is what I'm working on right now. I don't know if this is going to be a forever belief or not, if it's going to be a habit, a pattern, if it's going to lead me to some other revelation. That's not the point, right? The process is the point. The journey is the destination, etc. Right? So with that, grab some popcorn, grab your torches and pitchforks, and let's get to it. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. I'm your host, Raja Burrows, and today we are talking about not just using your saviors. Not just using your saviors. I'm talking about using your saviors 70% of the time. 70%. That's the number that I've I've been toying with it, 60-40, 1/3, 2/3, whatever, right? So I want to talk to you about how I sort of came to this math, why it is different from what I felt before. Just again, a number of different angles that I have been sort of exploring this idea from in a couple of different contexts, so that hopefully you will be able to make your own decisions about your journey of personal growth, how you want to approach things, how you want to live your most fulfilled life that's aligned with your best and highest good. Because ultimately, if that's not what we're here for, then I don't know why we're here. Like, if the goal is not best and highest good, then why are we doing this? Right? So I was thinking about lately. So I've been like, I'm just going to say it, not in a great place lately. Just like feeling really stuck, not loving the stuff. And in particular, sort of like going over a lot of the narratives that I was using for the last 2 years being an OP, being like, well, that definitely worked then, but I need some new narratives. I need some new plans. I just need some new shit, right? Because the old tools that I was using aren't serving this current iteration of me, and certainly they're not serving the iteration of me that's been in a fucking global pandemic for the last 9 months, and where it's just been like nothing but growth and change and hard. Like, yeah, obviously the tools that I was using before aren't gonna serve me now. My apartment. So I'm in the process of moving. I don't know when. I don't know what obviously with the holiday, I'm going to wait until after the holidays. I go home, come back here. But like, I really realized kind of like at the end of November, I was like, look, my apartment is fucking rad as hell. It is in a safe neighborhood. I can afford it. I can pay my bill. Like, on like a mechanical level, it's fucking banger as hell. But on like an energetic level, on a spiritual level, on a home building kind of level, it's just not, it's not there for me. And it was great, but I just burned out of it by just having to spend 21 hours a day in my apartment. I sort of learned everything I needed to learn from it. And now, in true Marie Kondo fashion, I can thank it for its time and then, move on to something else. So all of this is to say, I've been really questioning, like I'm realizing that a lot of where I'm getting stuck is trying to apply old OP learned behaviors, coping mechanisms, strategies, thought processes to this current iteration of myself. And I'm like, oh, I gotta go back into that IJ box and re-question some shit. So here's where I came up with 70-30 just in general as a ratio, right? So I came up with it because as a glass lizard, I have the blessing and the curse, let's call it, of I'm never going to run myself off a cliff. Not never, but basically never, right? Like, just to give you, a prime example. So, as many of you know, as I've talked about fairly openly on here, I'm almost 5 years sober, haven't had a drink since February of 2016. And the whole reason that I was able to get sober is that I never hit rock bottom. Like, not even in the sense of like, you think you hit rock bottom and then you see some other guy and you're like, that is a different level of rock bottom. I was not at rock bottom by any real stretch of the imagination. I did have a near-death experience. I did almost walk in front of an oncoming subway car because I was too drunk to stand up straight and didn't have the mental faculties to call a cab, because when I drink too much, I make bad choices. But like, I was in lots of ways, like I was fine. I managed to get home. But I remember I woke up the next morning and I was like, cool, we never get to drink again. Because what happened was, and sort of the narrative that I was able to attach to myself to, and my identity to, was I have seen this movie and I refuse to star in it. And by this movie, it's, look, my career was in a really good place. Hamilton was kicking ass. I was in callbacks for it. Like, I was doing the thing, starting to go to the gym. Like, things were like kind of cooking in a lot of ways. And I was like, the last thing that I need to have happen to me is to be an alcoholic and then, is to be an alcoholic and then get famous accidentally and then run myself off a cliff, because with fame and prestige and money and all the bullshit comes enablers. And so there would be fewer people around me percentage-wise to call me on my shit. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want that to happen. That's the fucking worst thing to happen. No, absolutely not. So I was like, I need to clean up my shit now before I'm famous, because once I get famous, again, so Rob Lowe has talked about this. A lot of people talk about this. They're like, whatever age and level of maturity you are when you got famous, that's kind of how you stay in perpetuity. So if you hit it big at 17, it's going to be really hard for you to grow past who you were at 17, because that's how you enter the zeitgeist. That's how people form parasocial relationships to you. It's a whole thing, right? And I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I don't care if I'm deferring my dream for 5 years or 10, I don't go fuck. I know that my habits right now are not sustainable and they are going to, run me into the ground. Right? Glass Lizard, Devil Masculine, INTJ, ex-boyfriend is at rock bottom. Warning, so ironic I logged. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm deeply sorry to hear that. I really am. I don't like to see anybody at rock bottom. And I truly hope that that he gets better and that he gets the help that he needs. Because that's a tough place to be, man. Like in jail, but like that kind of a thing, like that's tough, man. That's tough. And I wish you both the best. So with that said, the math that I sort of came into OP with is like my tidal waves are never going to be 90-10, 99-100, or is 99-1. They're always going to be, I'm always living in this like 70-30 more than 90-10 or 60-40. It feels like, again, because I'm a glass lizard, INTJ, whereas, if I were like a Tai Lopez INTJ, right, I would have, the blast, sleep, play, consume last, lead NI at the top, right? And even someone like Dave to an extent in a lot of ways, right? So he's those types, they're going to be all in 99% of the time doing their NI and like never checking the SE sensory at the bottom, right? But they're going to be like 60-40. Someone like Dave, I mean, Dave is real 50-50 with his single activated savior, double activated demon in the middle. Like he is redonkulously balanced in the middle for sure, right? But I always felt like I was like, I don't know, 60-40 seems generous to talk about my TEFI swings and problems. Like, again, anybody who knows me, anybody who's talked to me, seriously for the past year or two, they're like, you're kind of an ENTJ, dude. Like, you're kind of a blast, play, consume, sleep ENTJ. Like, you're not as cranked as Tony Robbins, thank fucking God. But like, yeah, no, you definitely have like demon, like you definitely have FI last kinds of problems in a lot of ways. And so I've always sort of lived in this 70-30 kind of way. It's always been, that's just always kind of been my ratio. Even to the point, this is like the first girlfriend I ever had right after I graduated college. We were talking just about like our dynamics, and obviously it didn't work out with us because, oh my God, so many reasons. But she described me, can't believe I'm saying this, I'm so sorry if you happen to stumble upon this, but I was described by her as being, she was like, oh my God, like you're so charming, I don't understand it. And I was like, really? Like, I don't know, I feel like I'm just like a normal person. And she's like, yeah, but you're like 70% puppy dog and 30% stallion. And I just thought that was the funniest fucking thing in the world. But that's sort of what I mean by this like 70-30. That's very much how I've lived my life as an INTJ, as a glass lizard INTJ, right? And so I was thinking a lot this week about my own stress, the stress of the people around me, just like a lot of things, just like really trying to understand it. And what I realized is that one of the many reasons, but one of the big reasons that I feel so stuck, have felt so stuck lately, is that I very much got stuck in a growth mindset. And there's a great Instagram post, Tumblr, whatever. There's like a meme going around, and it's like, don't get stuck in the healing phase. Don't forget to step over the threshold into your new life. And I realized what had happened with me is that I really had gotten stuck in my growth mindset, which is weird because I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that the whole point to always be growing? No, because if you look at the Tony Robbins math, you have to grow and give, and you certainly can't do both at the same time. But I have a really difficult time multitasking. And when I say I have a difficult time multitasking, I am accounting for the fact that A, nobody can fucking multitask. That's a fake thing. That's not a thing that people can do. And if it is a thing that people can do, statistically speaking, apparently, again, I question some of the logic here. I would need to, replicate with a double-blind study, whatever. But allegedly, women are better at multitasking than men. Again, I'd have to see some studies. I am skeptical. Even factoring in all of that, like, I'm just fucking bad at it. Again, lead NI needs to focus on one thing, and I just can't, I can't do like a little bit of grow and a little bit of give and a little bit of grow. And I can't do that. It's like, okay, I need to have a set amount of time that's like a good chunk to just do a thing. And I get so much done when I spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes on just like focusing on it. I get a lot done, like a lot done, which is great. But it also means that like I need to give myself more breaks than usual. That's been the other big thing, is realizing, you know what? I like, in terms of like accomplishment and like getting shit done and making shit happen, the former I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. The way that I was taught to think of work was very much go to class for 50 minutes and then take a 10-minute passing period break, right? Do a 40-minute section of a standardized test, then take a 5-minute break, right? So it was like most of the time you're working and doing very little break time. And I'm realizing that is not my optimal mode. One of the reasons that I like film and TV so much and like being on film sets and doing that thing is because it's flipped. 70% of the time, you're chilling, you're waiting, you're hanging out. And then 30% of the time, as soon as somebody says, all right, back to one, camera's up, then you're like, all right, great, I'm getting set, doing the thing. So like on films, depending on how fancy the TV or film set is, there is sometimes a person whose job it is, like job it is, to hold people's phones between takes. And, we're filming, great, let me take your phones, do the thing. It's his job to check to make sure the phones are on silent, right? And then when they break for, resetting up or doing whatever, watching it back, he gives the people the phones back, whatever. And I was like, no, don't give me my phone back. Like, you just hold on to it. If I need it, I will ask for it. But I'm good. I'm in the zone. I just want to stay focused. I want to stay doing the thing. And I think about that and I'm like, yeah, no, because that lets me just like relax, like genuinely relax most of the time. And I'm actually very good at hurry up and wait. Look, as long as you're fucking paying me and communicating with me, I will hurry up and wait all goddamn day. I'm fucking great at it, right? Because that 30% of the time when I'm on and I'm doing the thing, I'm like in it. Like, you get 100% commitment and focus and intensity from me, and we get shit done. And so I bring all of this up in the context of using your saviors a ton, because I don't know. I just really want to question the premise that 50-50 is the way to go. I really do. Because honestly, even more deeply than that, I want to question the premise of personal responsibility. I want to question that premise, because I think that it's so easy to go off a cliff and get so all in with the internalized capitalism and the misogyny and the macho whatever, right? And this idea that we are fully responsible for ourselves feels like a very Western late stage capitalist idea And it is not how we were meant to evolve, right? So the whole reason that we end up running ourselves off a cliff, just going all in on our saviors, is because society, Western culture right now, it's kind of lonely. It's kind of isolating. And especially now with, internet culture and the way that jobs work and whatever, like, it's the reason that it's so easy to run ourselves off of a cliff is because we are more disconnected from other people than we ever have been, I think. We don't have, those, the whatever, 125 person community. Like, we maybe have a pod watching our back, but like, we don't have these villages anymore. And even, in like the late 90s, early 2000s, listen, we can talk all we want about how, the corporate office life, in Fight Club or Office Space or The Matrix. 1999 was a weird fucking year where like all of these movies came out like slamming. Was Office Space 99? It was 99. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Oh man. Hashtag masculine sensory. Anyway, you had all this stuff, and like I get that that's a different kind of death. 100%. The Gen X apathy, stick it to the man, Rage Against the Machine, fuck yeah, stick it to the man. But in those kinds of contexts, there was a lot of role clarity. It was very well understood that like Kevin works in accounting, right? Kevin works in accounting. If you have an accounting question, talk to Kevin, right? If you have an HR question, don't talk to Kevin. Kevin can't fucking help you. That's not Kevin's job. Talk to Toby. Toby's the HR guy, right? If you need something faxed, don't ask Jim. Jim is just going to like not fax it. Like he's going to pull some kind of bullshit prank on you. Talk to Pam. Pam will get it faxed, right? And there's role clarity in all of this, and it's everybody does kind of work together, and it just kind of all moves forward and gets done, right? And the reason, so again, I don't know how familiar y'all are with the British version of The Office, but one of the, I mean, that is like a biting satire. American Office, much more sunny, much more fun. I actually slightly prefer the American Office. Even though I recognize, as I have said many times before, the last 5.5 minutes of episode 12 of the British Office is as good as comedy television can get. Like, you can't do better than that. With the sole exception, maybe, of the "How come he don't want me" scene from Fresh Prince. But basically, the last 5.5 minutes of The Office are perfection. You cannot do better than that. You just can't. So, all of this is to say, in that, we really saw that's like, no, there is role clarity, and shit falls apart because nobody's doing their job. Like, David Brent could absolutely have kept his job. There's absolutely no reason that Ricky Gervais's character needed to get fired. I mean, obviously, it's fiction, commentary, whatever. It sets up for the beautiful punchline at the end of the series. That's not the point. But he just doesn't fucking do his job. Like, at least Michael Scott, right? Steve Carell in the American Office, at least he, like, after, obviously after the first, season, like, at least Michael Scott fucking does his job. He's a little bumbling, of course it's a sitcom. He's going to be a little bit of a doofus, but like, he actually is very good at sales. And I love how clear the American Office makes that it's like, he probably shouldn't be the manager because he sort of rose to, beyond his skill level. Like, really, Jim should be the manager, but Jim doesn't have those kinds of ambitions. But like, Michael's very good at sales. Like, he's a very, very, very good salesman. But yes, I love this. Everybody has, yeah, I love the everybody. Everybody has their department. And I like being able to outsource with variety, and the specialties are defined by the role clarity. Yes, 100%. 100%. Like, yeah, Michael Scott came through when it was necessary, especially, listen, he was a mess when it comes to his personal life. Like, he plays the archetype of the ENFP. I don't know what he would actually be typed as, but that's the archetype that he plays. It's like, I'm Mr. Idea guy, Mr. Jokey guy, Mr. whatever, and then the whatever the FISI, right? Like, the SI at the bottom is just like his kryptonite. He's terrible. But I think that even then, like, he knows enough to be like, okay, my finances are a wreck. Let me ask Oscar. Hey, Oscar, like, I don't understand this thing. Explain it to me like I'm 5, right? And I think that's really good, man. I think that's really good, because so there was a scene in Queer Eye, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I think it was in the Black Girl Magic episode. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. I'm pretty sure it's in the Black Girl Magic episode where Anthony is talking to Jess, who's the black girl in question, and she had a hard fucking life. Like, she had a hard childhood and lots of abandonment and lots of woof, right? So, but she was talking to him about, like, I don't know, like, I've always had to be strong and take care of myself. Like, I don't need anybody. I'm good. I'm on my own. Like, and Anthony says something really poignant, because he's secretly a genius. And what he said was, I mean, that's great, and I'm glad that you've been able to survive, and oh my God, you've been through so much. But I think it shows a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to rely on other people. And every time I think about that, I just get fucking gutted, because it flies in the face not only of what we are taught, as Westerners, those of us who are Westerners watching this, certainly what we're taught as Americans. And honestly, I think a lot of what we hear in OP, this idea of being fully self-reliant, and I'm not blaming anybody else, and this is all on me, and I have to own everything for myself. I listen to that and I go, I mean, that is fine and good and workable in the absence of being able to rely on other people, but we're a social species. We're meant to help each other. And we're meant to do so without, like, compensation and without a transaction. It's just, yeah, this is my lane, and that's, this other person's lane. And so if you need that other, like, again, I'm just going to use a dumb example of like, I work in accounting, this other guy works in HR, right? We're all part of the same company. We're all doing the same thing. We're all, like, doing our job. So if I go to the guy from accounting, if I'm in HR and I go to the accounting guy and I have an accounting question, like, that's not me being weak or not taking responsibility for the finances thing. That's me literally going, who's the right person for this job? Oh, you know what? This other person knows more than me. I'm going to go ahead and defer to that person, because that's their job. That's the role in this social ecosystem. Yeah, it would be dumb of me to try to do this alone. Now, I can't know nothing about, the finance, whatever, right? Like, I need to know enough to be able to, take the advice that person is giving and whatever and implement it. Like he's not going to do it for me, but I don't need to know everything. One thing they talk about with like old married couples is like they end up over time kind of sharing a brain where it's like, again, it's why you sort of see, again, in very traditional households, right? Traditional gender dynamic, you'll see if it's like, a man and a wife, and, if the man dies and the woman is left alone, it is not uncommon. Again, this is back in the day. Obviously, the world is a little different now, but like I'm just saying back in like 1974, let's say, right? If your husband died, it's entirely possible that you would have no idea how to do your taxes. Because like, oh no, that's a thing that he did. Like that was the role that he filled. I don't know how to do that. And yes, on the one hand, I guess it's worth being like, well, that's on me. I should have known how to do everything. But also no, because I think that if you try to, I think that if you go, I think it's too easy to go too far. And, I think that there's something really beautiful about relying on other people and like really relying on them. Not in the sense of like, I'm going to let you do it because you're better at it, but I'm still going to keep an eye on. No. Like, if you're, being we're a communal species. If you're communing with somebody else, both of you can share a burden. All three of you, your pod, your tribe, your whatever. And I think that, assigning roles for what you're going to do 70% of the time, I think that's actually very, very healthy and emotionally intelligent, if you ask me. And when we're talking about saviors versus demons, I think that there's something really healthy and sustainable about finding a place where you can use your saviors 70% of the time. Not 100, maybe not even 80, but 70% of the time, you should just be cruising. I really do believe this in a lot of ways as of December 5th, 2020. Cruising, chilling, don't have to think about it. Being unconscious 70% of the time, that seems pretty sustainable. And then so now all you have to worry about is like, how often and for how long am I flipping the switch into consciousness? Right? And yeah, I think 30% of the time, that seems pretty fair to me, right? Thinking about a day at work, right? So I know this is not going to be exact math, but like, to me, a really good work day, if it's like, a 9 to 5 work day. Yes, here we go. Good Place is the shit. I fucking love The Good Place in a lot of ways. I thought the last season got a little preachy, personally. And they did kind of run out of steam. I don't know. I was not a fan of the last season. I think that what happened is they were not expecting the show to be popular. And so then they're like, oh, fuck, we have to do something real for this last season. Oh, shit. But yeah, I think that there is something to be said for like, yeah, no, this is like, I'm going to be deliberately going unconscious 70% of the time. So like thinking of a work day, right? You show up at 9. The first hour, you're just like there, responding to a couple of emails, really just like kind of zoning out and not really trying to make any waves or do anything. And then at 10 o'clock, oh no. All right, Karen from billing is up my ass again. All right, what the fuck did I do this time, Karen? And then for about half an hour, you have to be on, you have to be thinking, resolving issues. Great. Then you're like, great, Karen's off my back. Great, now I can go back to checking emails. 10:30 to 11:30. You're just checking emails. You're just doing the thing, getting some coffee, fully zombie unconscious, listening to music or your podcast or whatever. And then at, 11:30, God damn it, Karen. Karen, I already sent you. No, you have to open the attach. Oh my God. I'm sorry. You want me to put the text of the attachment in the body of the email and also attach it? Why, Karen? Why? Fine. Oh my God. So you do the thing for Karen, and then at noon, you're like, that's a fresher. I'm going on break. And then you go for lunch for an hour, right? But it's that sort of a thing. You can sustain that. What you can't sustain is the reverse. You can't sustain, show up at 9 a.m. and your inbox has already exploded. You're like, oh my fucking God. And now you're just putting out fires for an hour. And then you get a 20-minute, half-hour reprieve. It just then enters the screenshots. As per my last email, right? Or you get the thanks period as the salutation. Now you fucked up, right? But like, imagine the inverse of that, right? Where it's like 60 minutes of work and hell, and then you get like a 30-minute breather. And then it's like, all right, now I have another hour of like having to focus. You actually can't sustain that. Source, I tried that. You can't sustain it. I consider me proof positive that kind of a pattern can't work with it. You just can't. And I think this is true in professional relationships. I think it's true in personal relationships. I think it's true, in terms of where you live. I saw so many people in New York City who are just miserable like 70 to 80% of the time. And they just live for that 20% when things are just amazing. But here's the problem. If your ratio is like, let's just say 70-30, right? 70% of the time you're on the struggle bus and 30% of the time life is good, right? And let's define struggle bus as being scale from 1 to 10, you're below a 5. All right, so 70% of the time you're at a 4. Well, now that 30% of the time, that has to be like at an 8 or an 8.5 just for the whole day or the whole whatever time you're looking at to even out to a 6, right? So it's like 80% of the time I'm at a 4, or 70% of the time I'm at a 4. So that's 28 units, let's call it. And then, if it's at an 8, then you have 24 units. Now you're kind of in the middle, but imagine that's flipped, right? Now, if it's like 70% of the time, I'm at like a 6 or a 6.5. I'm cruising. I'm good. Now, if it dips down to a 4, you're still averaging better than a 5. You're still averaging better than a 5. And you're like, yeah, all right, I did a little work. I'm above 50%. I'm moving forward. It's fine. And you're above 50%. So this is sort of the last little bit of nerdy math that I want to put. So when you're playing any sort of like ranked game like chess, Magic the Gathering, League of Legends, over like whatever, any sort of competitive game with an ELO rating where you're matched with people of equal skill, you're only winning 50% of your games. And it really can be like win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And then eventually over time, you're like 11 out of 10, 11 wins, 10 losses. Great. You've moved up a little bit, right? And then you'll be at, at a higher level, and then you'll have your 10 losses, then your 10 wins, and like, all right, yeah, 11 wins, 10 losses. It's kind of drudgery. And that's great for competitions. If you're doing something competitively, I love this idea of every other run is not you're not gonna succeed, right? But I don't think that's how all of life is. I don't think it's all of how life should be. And I don't think that that is a way of living that we need to accept. I think we can raise our bar. And I think when we're talking about our savior and demon functions, I'm never advocating for running ourselves off a cliff. Never. And I'm very much advocating, like, for me as a lead NI, I need to be able and willing 30% of the time to do SE gathering. I just do. And certainly, how about this? As somebody who is a TEFI in the middle, but who has a lot of EJ-ish tendencies, I don't get to TE 100% of the time. I got to FI at least 30%, not at least. I have to FI roughly 30% of the time. But if I'm in, again, work relationship, personal relationship, environmental relationship, family relationship, my relationship with my food, relationship with exercise, relationship with technology, all these things. If I have to use my FI consciously in a growing struggle bus kind of way, more than 30% of the time, it's not a good fit. It just isn't. And it's because it's not going to be sustainable long term. You might get a little burst, and that's great. But if you find yourself, again, I'm just going to use this is not, don't take this to the bank, but like if you're at your job, right? And if you are prefrontal cortex thinking, using your facilities, using your demons more than 30% of the time, you're in the wrong department. Like, for instance, one of the big things that I really struggled with as a so I was a tech recruiter for 2 weeks for a company called Modus. They're owned by Adecco, like this big multinational. It was like a fully corporate-y job. And I left that company and I left that experience because I needed to leave New York. It was a bad fit. I don't do desks. There are, again, million factors. But it is the kind of thing where I was like, you know what? I actually don't hate this work that much, but I'm a technophobe. I really don't like a lot of modern technology. I hate social media. Even though I fucking run the OP Facebook group, whatever. But like using LinkedIn and Twitter and like all of that, I'm like, no, I don't like this. This is hard for me. And because in the tech recruiting world, you have to, so much of it happens on LinkedIn. And that was just draining. And I was like, I can't have my entire day. I can't have 70% of my day be doing something I don't like so that 30% of the day I get to do something I do like. That's not going to work for me. What I need is the flip. I love talking to people on the phone. What I really love is people either doing video interviews or coming in for interviews. That's the fucking best. I fucking crush on both sides of an in-person or a Skype interview. 100%. So I need to be doing that 70% of the time, and then 30% of the time, fine. I'll do a little LinkedIn messaging. I'll do the social media thing, whatever. But, and I know that in the other departments, right? So like in Agilon, that's like the HR or whatever, totally different vibe. Different people, different culture, different communication style. So had I stuck with it, I would have been like, this is fine. Can I transfer to this different branch? Because this tech thing is not for me. Like, I'm not a tech recruiter. I am very much, let me fill your office manager position. Let me fill your secretary position. Right? Like, I can find you the greatest humans in the world for those kinds of positions. But tech, like, I don't give a shit. Oh, yes, you can code in Python and Ruby and when to I don't care. I literally don't give a shit. So all of this is to say, I think that we are entitled to good fits. And I don't believe that we should have to live in a state of growth and stressful growth more than 30% of the time. If you got better numbers than this, I really would love to hear them. But I don't know. I think that we over glorify growth. I think we over glorify struggling. I think it's really easy to become addicted to healing because once you get addicted to growth, then it's impossible, like, again, in the interest of like maintaining the internal narrative and the things that your ego and identity is attached to, like, I think it's really, really easy to be like, okay, I'm healed. I'm grown. So now what? Well, what you will do is your system's going to freak the fuck out and be like, I've attached my identity to growth and struggling. And if I'm not struggling, then I'm not growing. And if I'm not growing, then I'm dying. Oh my God. Well, let me find something else that I suck at just to reinforce this narrative of I'm the lowest of the low. I can always be doing more. Nothing is ever good enough. And that's an impossible way to live. You're gonna burn out. I promise you're gonna burn out. Sooner or later, you're cooked. So all this is to say, I kind of want to explore this idea of loving your saviors. I really do. And I think that loving your saviors does not have to come at the expense of respecting your demons. And I think 70-30, like, I think it's a really good number, guys. Yes, addiction to the victim pain, helping others in an intentional way without boundaries is the key to, yes. Oh, I love that. I want to reread that like slowly because that's really beautiful. It's an addiction to the victim pain, helping others in an intentional way with boundaries is the key to exiting that. You know what? That's it, man. That's it. I'm out. I got nothing else. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.